So welcome to our September 13th meeting. Just a reminder, from now on, we're going to be meeting at 3 o'clock start time unless there's a change. Because we've been going on so late, it's been a problem for people. So, all right, so the first thing to note is that Dan DeBilodeau has an excused absence today, and everyone else is present. And we have several people from the public here. Thank you for coming. And we have our new education coordinator here today. Welcome.
Yes, everybody, this is Dylan. He started with us in July. You've probably seen messages going around.
Great.
Nice
Welcome,
to meet you.
Dylan.
Welcome, great to
Yeah.
have you here. Thank you.
No,
not yet.
Yeah.
Give him 6 months and then.
The first thing on our agenda is our minutes. We need to review the June 14th regular meeting minutes and the July 12th special meeting minutes.
Motion to accept.
Motion to accept. Is there a second for the June meeting?
Second.
Second by Amy. Any discussion? All those in favor? All those against? Unanimous approval of the June minutes. Can I have a motion for the July 12th?
Motion to accept.
Motion by Rick,
I'll second.
second by Mary Ann. Any discussion? All right, no discussion. Let's have a vote. All those in favor? Any opposition? Unanimous approval. Okay, thank you all. Next on our agenda is the financial report is the consent agenda item today.
Madam
Yes.
Chair, can I request that we pull it off consent to talk about a few things?
Yes.
Thank you.
Does that require a vote? Or just, okay.
So typically, and I'm kind of wearing both hats here, when we have such an overage with the 2 crews from each utility as we have, the board in the past, especially given this dollar value that they're over, recognizing this is at the end, as of the end of August, and we still have, potentially some snow plowing and other things to do. And I don't know if they pulled out the dock yet or not.
Not yet.
Yeah, so this is only going to grow.
You're looking at the Auburn Water Department and Lewiston Water Department?
Correct, those
Okay.
deficits.
Yes.
The commission talks about how they're going to fund those deficits. Is this something that they're going to fund out of retained earnings, or are they going to do a budget transfer from one of the other line items? I just wanted to kind of
Yeah.
address that, given the amount of money that we're looking at.
I was going to ask, why is it so over?
That's from a lot of the cleanup and repair from all those massive rain events we've had. Yeah, unfortunately. There was a lot of work on Spring Road and unplugging culverts and repairs and, yep. So I don't know. I hope we don't have any more, but like you said, with winter time,
Yeah, you still got some pretty heavy months and
yeah,
the crew taking the dock out and stuff
Exactly.
like that.
yep.
I don't know what's planned for the source protection money between now and end of the year.
So we've got quite a bit planned for that. Tie-in bond is actually coming up either this week or next week to do some field work, and then they're going to be working on permitting and planning for implementing a project next year to stabilize the stream that comes into the lake. So that's going to be, I think it's 35,000 that's planned. So we will have some left over. So maybe we could plan on that. I can tell you exactly when I look at it in the office.
I mean, I just think maybe by the next, well, we aren't meeting again until the budget time, right?
November, yep.
So, I mean, we might just wanna have a strategy of how we're funding that
Sure.
by the next meeting.
For sure.
And I also suggest we budget more, because it's not gonna get,
That's exactly, I've
We're-
started
we're
working
off,
on the
yeah.
budget for next
We're
year, that
off.
was my exact thought, and my note for it is, unfortunately, I think this is going to be more of the norm.
So just a question, I know that we had approved the money to hire Teagan Bond to do this work, not, I mean, several years ago.
Yep.
But we didn't spend the money. Is that rolled over into the budget, or how is that handled then? Maybe,
Well, as part of those budgets and, you typically have a reserve carry forward or retained earnings carried forward.
yeah,
That is part of balancing the budget each year.
uh-huh,
So if there were surplus funds and we know some of those items are coming forward, that's one element we use to balance the budget.
okay,
And we usually, or at least prior, did a 2-year look back because those would be audited numbers by that point. And so you felt secure about using that amount of money to balance the budget.
okay. Thank you. I noticed also, Erica, that we have the public education labor. We have a lot of money. I know we have someone working full-time, but you might also see what that will look like till the end of the year as well.
Yeah, and I had looked at, I don't have my line by line here, but the source protection, we had money in there for the patrols, but I rolled that into this position for, while Dylan is here, for being out in the watershed and kind of doing routine checks, rather than the police department taking that on this summer.
I see.
Yeah,
So that was budgeted up in the source protection, so you should have
Good chunk.
a surplus
Yes.
up there.
yes.
Because
We had
that's usually at least 30 of that 63,000, I'm thinking. Because you have the police, the cost of the labor plus their vehicle rental.
Yep, we had, I think, 18,000 budgeted this year, but that probably was far less than what it actually would have done if we had
Okay.
them. Yeah.
I have a question about forestry. Is that something that we didn't budget enough from, or surprises?
Yeah, that was a surprise, actually. So there was a boundary dispute for land that we own versus an abutting property owner. And they wanted to harvest their land, so we surveyed our lot to make sure that we hadn't cut on theirs and they weren't going to cut on ours. Yeah.
That should probably go to the sinking fund, not the operating budget,
Okay,
so that'll help that line.
okay.
How about outside services?
I did have a question about the outside services. I had a question about that, and I can talk to Tracy about that. That is our set agreement with Androscoggin Land Trust for monitoring our conservation easements.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a memorandum of understanding with them. It's usually 3-year increments for that 3,325. So I'm not sure what else went into that.
My guess is looking at FY '22s, they were behind in billing again.
Okay.
They do that every year.
I know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, some things are
Consistent,
habitual.
okay. All right. Other questions? Thanks, Heather, for bringing that up to our attention. And, yeah, Erica will look forward to your updating budget and one for next fiscal year
Yep.
in November.
So in the past, and I'll be working with you, Tracy, on that too, we try to get it posted a month ahead of our November meeting, or the 30 days before our November meeting. So I work with Mike and Kevin and Tracy on that, and I'll try to get that up on the website in October.
Okay.
And I'll send an email out so you all know.
I'll make a motion to approve the treasurer report.
Second.
Second from Rick. Any discussion other than what we've had? All those in favor? Any opposition? Okay, approved unanimously. Thank you, Tracy, for your work on that, and Heather, too. It's, next on the agenda is a public comment. Anyone from the public would wish to speak? Yes, please identify your name and your address, please.
Stephen Beal, 575 Johnson Road in Auburn. I wanted to comment on the item which appears later on your agenda, which is the drinking water program's response to the final CDM Smith report and the drinking water program's advocacy of making its tentative line, which they had proposed earlier, into the permanent line, or they've kind of ordered it in a back-ended sort of way that says that the DW drinking water program will not challenge this boundary, which is shown as the light blue line on this diagram here, which I believe you all have in complement with that letter. And that is a line that has been discussed in various configurations previously. This is, of course, a very important topic, and a lot of public bodies got their eye on this determination. This line, in fact, is going to be coming before the Auburn Planning Board at its October meeting, Mr. Sear will confirm, for discussion and some kind of a proposition by the Planning Board to the Auburn City Council. I have been a member of a group that's advocated for good water quality last year, and resulting in the citizen initiative petition, which caused the repeal of the ordinance, which would have moved the boundary way up toward the lake. So I urge you to adopt this proposal with this line that is the light blue line, and to make that adoption known to the Auburn City government. And I suspect that Mr. Broadbent will make it known to the Auburn Water District, if you do adopt it as such. One final thing, this position by the Drinking Water Group is predicated on the final CDM Smith report, and while it doesn't directly relate to the watershed boundary overall, there is a factual error in the Smith report, which you ought to be aware of. It's on page 8, in which it says that the area near the Berry Farm has a culvert draining away from the lake and toward the opposite side of the road to the south. That's just factually reversed. There is a new storm drain on the cemetery side of the road. There's a culvert under the road that drains eventually into a little retention pond that's on the lake side of the road. As I say, that's a relatively modest matter, but it's just factually incorrect by visual observation.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public would like to speak now? All right, Erica, we have water quality and watershed report.
Sure, so most of what I wanted to talk about I included in the text. This kind of late fall season has been a little strange for water quality, but there's nothing alarming going on. Turbidity right now, which is a little later than when I put this together, is about a 0.6 NTU, so it's up a little bit. There's a lot of algae growth going on. Staff is speciating that out. There's nothing of concern at this time. It's actually, biomass is down a bit from last year, this time of year. I think, you know, we had a lot of rain this summer, which was concerning for a while, but the fact that it was pretty consistent throughout June I don't know, it's just.
Consistent.
Yeah, I know, that's a
Constant
nice
improvement.
way of
Constant.
putting it, yeah,
Consistently
it's,
raining.
we haven't seen such big spikes or changes in water quality as we do when it's hot and dry all summer, and then all of a sudden we get big storms. That can, that can be really alarming for us. So things are pretty consistent right now. Staff are still out sampling on the lake. We did lose a little bit of clarity over the last few weeks, but that's not unexpected this time of year. I think it is going to be cooling down a bit. We'll probably see some natural die-off of algae as we go through the next few weeks. There's turbidity and temperature graphs in here, so you can just kind of see year over year where we are for turbidity. It kind of follows the normal seasonal trend, but we're lower than the last couple of years, which is good. Temperature is lower this year, again, just with like a lot of the rain and cool temperatures. We didn't get that big summer spike. And let me see what else I had that I wanted to include. So we've had major rain events. Those are a little concerning. Not a little concerning. They're pretty concerning with the amount of volume of water and potential phosphorus loading coming into the lake with those massive rain events. Unfortunately, we don't always see the results of that impact until maybe next year or even a couple of years out. That's one of the things that we're working with Ken Wagner on, is trying to really figure out what has been the phosphorus loading from some of those big rain events, and then what is our best way to mitigate impacts from that. So that's what we're working with him on. Our staff and team had a kind of touch base meeting with him last month and talked about, do we dredge the basin? Do we put in, titration units of alum for big storm events? Those are all possibilities, but they have all of our backlog of water quality data that they're working through, and the idea is that he and Jen Jesperson from Ecological Instincts will give us some alternatives. And of course, what does all that cost, and how do we plan for that? How do we implement it? There's definitely grants available, but they are the experts, so we're really looking to them to say what is going to have the biggest impact for helping water quality for the lake. There's a lot of small projects you can do, but is it time to do something bigger? So we're working with them on that. I do have the finalized watershed management plan from CDM Smith, and that's one of the things I had in my staff report, but I can include it now. That I wanted to ask the board, would you like them to do a presentation of that? I'm happy to do it, or if that's something that you were interested in having them present on. They gave me a couple figures for that. It's if they were to come in person, it'd be $3,650, or if they did it virtually, it'd be $2,850. That wasn't included in our original scope for the plan.
That's not included in the purchase of the...
That was not included in our original scope of presentation on the final plan, no. So that's in addition.
We should consider that moving forward.
Yeah.
$2,800 to sit in your office and open it up for an hour.
Yeah.
And they call my business crooks.
Yeah.
Sorry, don't put that in the
Are
minutes.
you comfortable with
I'm gonna strike
presenting
that.
those findings or overview?
Yeah, I'm comfortable doing an overview of it. I wanted to throw it out there as an option in case you wanted to hear from them on their background work on it and how they got.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Okay.
I'm surprised they didn't do an executive summary in that report too.
Yeah.
We should demand an executive summary
really.
on that stuff.
Yeah,
If you give us a report, we want a summary of the report.
Yeah.
well, usually that's the standard.
It should be
Exactly,
SOP.
that's
It
the
should be SOP.
standard. So,
Yeah. So I'm happy to just do an overview of it, maybe at our November meeting. Just give the highlights of it, and then I'm going to be working off of that for some of the projects to include in the budget next year, so that kind of all goes together.
Yeah, I'd be super interested in November you prioritizing what work you're gonna be,
Yeah, and I want to have that
because
conversation too.
it's in chapter 4, they have sort of a calendar and timeline of all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's what I would work off of, but, I would like input on that too. As I mentioned, Tie and Bond, I've started working with them. we call it Blanchard Pond. It's this small horse pond on Blanchard Road in Auburn. It goes green every year. We know it has high phosphorus. There's a wetland system downstream of it that helps uptake some of that phosphorus. And that continues under Route 4 into the small stream that goes right to the lake. And that stream is highly eroded. It's very narrow and steep, and we know that the soils there contain naturally occurring phosphorus. So we want to do some stream bank remediation there. So that's what this project is. So they'll be on site either this week or next week. It was really weather dependent. They're going to help with permitting because we'll have to go through DEP in the city for that project. And they'll put the plans together for it. We'll actually work towards construction of that in 2024. And I guess the last thing on here is that I talked about, we met with Ken Wagner from Water Resource Services to talk about phosphorus mitigation options in the years to come. So if are there any other questions that you guys have for me or anything else?
I'm curious, when you meet with Ken Wagner, are you bringing in the other scientists that are working actively on the lake, both from the treatment plant as well outside?
Yes, so we had Holly Ewing from Bates. She joined us at that last meeting that we had. Mike was there, Kevin was there, I was there, Ken, was Chris there? Chris was there too, yeah, I couldn't remember if he could make it or not. So yes, we're trying to get everybody in that room to participate.
Yeah, that's good. I would encourage that to continue.
Yeah.
Great.
Any other questions? All right.
Great. Thank you.
Yep.
So we're moving on to old business, even though I think Erica just covered the watershed management plan update.
Yes. Sorry, can we go to, I did have a couple things for staff report.
Oh, sorry, I skipped that.
Okay.
I apologize.
But Mike.
Mike, do you want to go first?
Yep, I had a couple of things. One thing, Alan just handed this to me. The Auburn Water and Sewer District, for a long history, has been hosting a measuring of the lake event. I don't know when this started. It goes back as far as I can look. There's always been an appreciation dinner towards our trustees. There's actually only 2 trustees on our boards that are paid. It's the president and the treasurer. The rest are unpaid positions. So they've always had this dinner to recognize them for their service and the appreciation towards them for serving. Over the years that got expanded, commissioners have been invited, staff from the wastewater treatment plant, city councils have been invited. The last couple of years we haven't been having this because of COVID. I'd kind of forgotten about it. I was reminded about it about a month back, so we're having it. And I got these invitations out. If you guys, anyone who did receive this wants to attend, please get this filled out and return to me by the end of next week. It is right now scheduled for September 28th at 5 p.m. Because it's going to be so late in the year, bear in mind, daylight hours are fading fast, especially towards the end of September. So dinner will be served at 5:30. It'll be just a great time to mingle and chat, and we all work together quite a bit, so it's nice to do something like this once in a while, and we appreciate your service. So that's that, and I did touch on Mr. Beal's comment that he brought up in open session. So yes, at the Water District trustee meeting next week, it is on our agenda for the trustees to discuss the CDM Smith report that was received. I don't have any pending action that they're looking to take, but Kevin and I did meet earlier this week and we discussed strategies of moving this forward. Obviously that map will need to be amended showing this new drinking water program line. That'll have to be added to the Auburn Water District's bylaws for protection of Lake Auburn. There'll also have to be some amendment of the language in the Zone 1 protection areas that also touches on these boundary lines. So that'll be discussed at the trustee meeting next week, and likely will be, if any changes are to be made, will be in October. So that's what I know about that. Again, it's up to the board and where they go with it, but that's what's on the agenda. So.
Did your board vote for you to be a clerk? Yeah. Do they?
No, so I did not have that in time for the, these meetings come, like, I'm putting my agenda out tomorrow to go, and I didn't get it on, but it's on the agenda next week. We have the meeting rules, and that'll be on discussion. I'll provide feedback to all after that.
Mary Ann, I didn't hear your question.
The question was, that did the Auburn Water District Board accept the meeting rules where he becomes a co-clerk?
Okay,
Kevin
that's
becomes
what
a
I
co-clerk
was
again.
confirming.
Kind of puts it
Sorry.
back on his job description,
Yeah,
basically, right?
thank you. I was gonna ask about that too, so I missed what you were asking. Okay. Anything else, Mike?
So,
Okay. Erica?
One of the things I thought about is the term appointments for everybody who's on our board here. I had a sheet, but it was last updated February 2022, and we have some new people, and so I was wondering if I could just get from each commissioner when you started, and then it will be a 3-year appointment, so I can get this updated quickly. First one on here is Dan, so was he just renewed, Mike,
he was the last one that just got renewed last year.
last year?
Yep.
Okay, so his current appointment is 2023 to 2022
To 2025.
to 2025, okay.
Camilla, you were the year before that.
Was I? I
Yeah.
thought I was in 22, but was I in 21?
I have you on here as 2022
Yeah,
to 25,
right,
so that's right?
yeah.
Okay. Amy, you're at 5
Right,
Right, you're here forever.
That's
As long
why
as
you're
you're
on the jump rope.
Executive director, okay. And Rick, when did we,
22.
that's what I have, so 2022 to 2025.
Well, here's the problem.
Oh boy.
With city council, I'm a city council representative. If by some chance I do not get reelected this coming term, I'm no longer representing the city council, so I will be off the board. So it's more of a 2-year term. I know this body says it's a 3-year term. So I just better get elected, I guess.
Okay, good luck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Um,
it's gonna be interesting.
That makes me wonder, for our 3 Lewiston reps, does one have to be a city councilor? Okay,
Yeah, we have a resident, city council, and the public works director.
okay.
Is that an internal decision? I think this is like, would be like, for us, like, no more than one can be, like, we always say you have to have AWD, but no more than one can be an AWD.
I think it said it right in our,
Okay.
the agreement between the two.
Okay,
Remember last
Yeah,
time I
it's right
checked,
in there.
it has to be, one counselor has to be there.
gotcha. So 2022 to, hopefully,
Technically 2025, but
okay, thank you. Alan, I had that you started in 2021, is that correct?
Yeah, this is my 3rd year.
Okay, so I had February 21 to February 2024, does that sound right?
That sounds right.
Okay. Glenn,
Every year until the 3 towns make a decision this next coming April, to hopefully do it for longer.
so it's 1 year, right?
I
Okay.
was appointed for 1 year with the last vote, and then this
And
year.
that was like March of this year?
Yeah, March of
Yeah.
3, so I'll pay it to March of 24,
Okay,
and then see what they do. They all seem amicable, but I didn't want to go back and redo the thing after I did the thing.
yep. Okay. Heather, January 22? Or was it
no,
23?
just got appointed this year.
Okay.
23.
23. Thank you. Evan,
I think
you're
I
up.
think this is it, yeah.
You're up.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Actually, I'm upset about it.
And Mary Ann,
What was the month of, I mean, is Evans, when is?
July.
I see.
Of this year?
Yeah.
You said
Yeah,
you?
so,
Your
no,
vote
I
isn't
haven't
good.
been renewed. They just haven't done anything.
That was my other question is, where these are, a lot of these are staggered, are we going by month of appointment, 3 years to that month, or are we looking at like, you'll finish out 2023? It gets a little tricky.
It's not in the meeting minutes.
It's not in our
It's not in
bylaws.
the
It's
meeting
not in our
minutes.
bylaws.
It's in there.
I didn't
So
put that in the
Evan,
meeting
Evan's
minutes.
an Auburn rep, right?
Right,
So Auburn would dictate that, not the watershed.
All
Right.
right, yeah, I think we usually post that on our website and people wanna take out, and then we'll vote on that. It
okay,
looks like we're just behind the times on it, sorry.
okay.
Uh,
Yeah, I just.
Is that Auburn Water District or City?
Yeah,
Auburn?
Auburn Water.
So maybe that would be on your agenda next week.
Yeah, I can get it on the agenda tomorrow,
Yeah.
for next week.
For next week, right.
but I don't know if that would give enough opportunity.
To see if anybody else.
Yeah, see if anybody else wants, we can announce it, talk about it in July, but then maybe post it till, I'm sorry, talk about it in September and then post it till October.
Yeah.
Evan, do you want to do it again?
I don't know. Wednesdays are becoming a tricky day.
Would you like to be a member? Too young to.
I don't think there's an age requirement.
You could be fine.
Okay, so Evan, I have you as July, Heather is January, correct?
Yes,
It was, yeah.
because it's with the council appointments.
Okay, so January 2023
Would, yes, to
Okay.
2026.
to 2026, okay. Glenn, March, is that right?
Sure.
Sure, okay. Alan, I have on here as February.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Rick, I had January 2022.
Correct.
Amy's by position, and Camille, I had July.
July, yes.
Okay,
That's right.
all right. Thank you all very much. I'll get that updated. The one other thing I had for staff report is at the Auburn City Council meeting on September 5th was the first reading of an update to the Ag and Resource Protection District zoning ordinance, and specifically for the Lake Auburn, the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District. It's an update to that ordinance that says residential dwellings in the Agriculture and Resource Protection Zoning District. New one-family detached dwellings are prohibited in the Lake Auburn Watershed District as of the date of adoption of the amendments of this ordinance. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but that was the first reading at City Council. And then they will have the second reading scheduled for that on September 18th.
That's only for that part of the
Yes.
watershed overlay
Yes.
that is over the ag zone.
Yes.
Which is 73% of the watershed
Yes.
perimeter.
So I just wanted to bring that to your attention, so that's moving forward. That's all I have for staff report.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you. Now, moving to old business. Alan's going to present the ad hoc committee trails work.
Well, which one? There's two separate items there. There's the ad hoc committee that Rick and I are members of, and then there's the trails, which is a separate item.
Right. Well, I was looking at the report from the trails, for Dan and Alan first.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, so there's not a lot of updates. We have not met with the city again. I know the last time we talked about it, I guess the bylaws had stated that there is restricted areas that would certainly be within the Southern Link Trail as proposed, that would make it difficult to have a trail. Now because Dan was supposed to be here today, he unfortunately got held up at the airport. I'm trying to pull up, apparently, before I came on this committee, in the past, there was some document that had been put together that talked about putting signs at locations along the shoreline to be seen from shore, indicating absolutely no trespassing and penalties imposed against violators. And notwithstanding the above, low-impact responsible pedestrian use of the Southern Link Trail, so-called identified on the trail map on the file in the Auburn Water District, is permitted by the public, provided that remains on trail. No trespassing signs will be posted to ensure that all users remain on the trail except for those areas which may be designated for picnic table or scenic vistas. use of the long-standing snowmobile corridor permitted by Lake Arm Watershed Protection Committee shall continue. So again, at this point, it seems like it's trying to determine how we can move forward, but then also the other piece has been obviously the funding. Even though right now there certainly appears to be much more important items that we may need to discuss regarding funds, as opposed to putting funds towards a trail at this point in time. And really, it's not clear at this point how we even can proceed with that Southern Link Trail. So I know we don't want to see this just kind of fall by the wayside and kind of just disappear, but at this point, there isn't a lot, as far as next steps to try to figure out, can we move forward based on the current bylaws? Well, if so, how do we move forward? So I know the city is looking at maybe some potential grants that would help fund, but certainly there may be an expectation that we, kick in a part of that money, which certainly I think I understand right now is a tough sell at this point in time based on other prioritized matters that we're dealing with right now. So that's really what I have right now. Anybody has any questions for me? This seems like it kind of falls to kind of not to the top of our priorities right now, but certainly I know that him and I both are still have a vision of this trail and still don't want to just let this fall by the wayside and get removed from our agenda. And so we'd still like to continue to look into things and see how we can kind of move forward. But at this point, it's kind of there's a lot we can do right now to kind of figure out exactly what the next steps would be. But we certainly do plan to meet with the city of Auburn again here this fall to discuss kind of any success they may have had with grant money. But that point, I just trying to figure out whether we can actually go forward with this trail based on the language and current bylaws that restrict foot traffic in certain areas of the lake where this trail has been proposed.
Erica and I did receive an email from Dan. He had spoken with, maybe, I don't know if he forwarded this to you, with Jim Frost as just a casual conversation about the Southern Link Trail and some of the information about, the bylaws and things that would have to be done to override restrictions currently, and then the potential for the cities, to be for or against it, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, I'll talk to,
A lot of potential barriers.
yes.
So I commend Dan for reaching out.
Pardon?
I commend Dan for reaching out, but I would really like it if it was sort of the business of the board not to individually reach out to council, given that that could incur costs, right? So it seems like the kind of thing, if we're all gonna pay for it, it is the
We
kind of thing
didn't
that should be
take,
doing.
Jim did not charge for it, because it was
Okay.
not authorized by the
Okay.
law pack. So I had nothing to do with it, other
Yeah, okay.
than
I
I
guess
got the email
I'm
from,
just.
yeah. I
We're
totally
remiss by
agree with
saying
that,
something there.
and so I just wanted to let people know that
Okay.
Dan had made the motion in conversation with Jim. Thank you. I think the other the ad hoc committee that you and Rick are on is under new business, so we'll postpone that for that next. And Erica, did you have anything else under the watershed management plan?
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So we'll move on to new business. The first is the drinking water response to the Graceland Pit watershed boundary change, dated 9/5/23. And I have Erica down for that.
Yes, so this is the most recent letter that we received, I say we, that Mike and Kevin received from the drinking water program. And basically the crux of this is that they say the drinking water program also agrees that further investigation would be needed to establish a boundary closer to Lake Auburn. And they agree with the CDM Smith finding that the drinking water program potential boundary on figure 1 is a conservative boundary that can be established with available data. And they will not challenge that based on their current understanding of the local hydrogeology. So they support adopting this light blue line that's on the figure, the drinking water program potential boundary, which is It's helpful, it's good news. They are our regulators as water utilities and basically have the final say on where the watershed line falls for our source water. So they're on board with this. Mike is going to bring this up at the Auburn Water District's Board of Trustees meeting next week. And we were talking to Kevin about this a little bit. I think it goes back to the interlocal agreement with what Auburn Water accepts as the boundary line. Is that correct, Mike? That's a shared, or it's, I shouldn't say what Auburn Water does, it's what drinking water program.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, right now, it's something that we'll have to vet through legal counsel to make sure we
Okay.
understand all the little hoops. As I mentioned, there's adopting that map edited to show that light blue line. So that's one step. There's editing of the language to the bylaws of Protection Lake Auburn. And as we talked about with Kevin, we gotta look at the interlocal agreement to see if there's any other steps that have to be done in there to
Right.
then move that all forward. So that's what we're currently looking at.
That's kind of the process where we're at.
I would wonder if it's beneficial for LawPac to pass a motion recommending to Auburn Water District or approval of the proposed change in the boundary line. I don't know how other people feel, but I would like to make a motion to do that.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I had one point of order, and maybe Evan can back me up on this. I think the commissioners have already voted to accept that line pending the approval of the drinking water program. So I think you've already made that vote to do that. But I mean, it's just a point of order.
Yeah, we had adopted one of the dark blue lines. It was the more conservative of the dark blue lines, I think, contingent upon the drinking water. And then this came back, and then I think we took another vote saying, okay, well, we would adopt the light blue line then, based on the drinking water. So I think Mike is right, we've done that.
That's good.
We've done that a couple times,
Okay,
I think we should verify that.
yeah.
We can at least affirm it as a vote, that, you know,
Affirm
since
it
that,
as going
the
down.
colors have changed
Sure.
Yeah.
Especially now that we've heard back from the drinking water program.
initially.
So,
So there's a motion in a second.
to
Just to affirm.
affirm,
To affirm the boundary lines.
previous
the light
decision,
blue.
to, yes. So, any more discussion? Those in favor of affirming? Those opposed? And that's unanimous.
I apologize, I'm gonna need to step out to go get my older daughter from practice, so that way we can get Abigail to start her practice.
Okay.
But before I go, Erica did point out that this information, this discussion is going to end up coming back up again for the Auburn Planning Board. Anything the Auburn Planning Board does, obviously, isn't the watershed line, it's the Lake Auburn Watershed Overlay District. It's the overlay, the map of the overlay, not so, like, if we recommend something, it's not really the watershed, it's the overlay. So I've got to go, but maybe folks should decide if they want to ask Camille to draft some kind of letter stating that, the LawPac doesn't believe any change in the overlay district, should they choose, should be less conservative than that line as well, just to.
Is the overlay district goes along the boundary?
The way the wording is that the overlay district is the watershed.
Okay.
Yes. So I guess then you get into semantics as to whether or not, if the council does that, they're really changing the watershed, or they're just changing whether the overlay matches the watershed. But regardless, given everything that's going on, I think we as a board have decided that AWD should be taking a more a bigger role in lake protection instead of just relying on the city of Auburn. But since the city of Auburn is going to be discussing it, whether or not LAPEC wants to also sort of make their wishes be known that this is as liberal aligned changes we would recommend it.
When is that meeting? When is your planning board meeting?
It's going to be the second week in October.
It's the 14th.
So we have time to get a draft letter.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I don't think it has to be big. I think, you know what I mean? Just to say,
October 10th.
we know you're taking this up, and, you know, this is our opinion. Okay. You get a scoop.
See you later.
Okay,
It's a good idea, Camille, is that something that you're going to, as a chair, is that something you're going to draft out?
Yeah, I'll
Send to
draft
the planning
something
board?
up. I won't be around during that time to actually go to the planning board. I'll be on vacation that week, but
Not
it's
that-
just a letter to affirm what we have just voted on, so
Not that they're going to ask
Yeah.
any of us to get up and speak.
I will draft something and send it off to you, Rick, and to the two clerks, potential clerks, and Erica for approval. Unless other people would like to see it as well. Okay. I'll do that in the next week. All right. Update from Tracy.
So I'm passing around a letter that I will go over with you. So the Lake Auburn Watershed has been banking with Key Bank since it opened. When banks usually get upgraded security, it's usually automatically given to your bank accounts. Unfortunately, Key Bank does not do that, and we did not know that. So on July 10th, I received a call from the Auburn Key Bank saying that somebody tried to attempt to take 5 ACHs out of our account. I was informed I would be called by fraud, and I was. They sent the paperwork over to the Lewiston office because I deal with the Lewiston office. So I went in. Trevor was on lunch, so he had Marge print off everything. We sat down, myself, Marge, and Izzy, or Isabel, but she goes by Izzy, and looked at the accounts, and nothing was taken out. Looked fine. She called the back office, everything looked fine. We put a freeze automatically, when I was talking to Caitlin on the phone, we put a freeze automatically on both accounts. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Trevor, who informs me that they could not get back $29,209 out of what was taken out. And that's when I kind of questioned him and said, wait a minute here. You told me we were perfectly fine. We didn't need to fill out the fraud paperwork. Everything was all set. And he said, sorry for you being misinformed. I said, well, it was actually you who told me we were all set. Yourself, Marge, and Izzy all were sitting right there. So they continue to try to get that money back. But as you know, the further they go out, the less likely we're going to get that back. So I have been going back and forth with their executive creditor relationship, Tara, to try to get this back. The accounts are still frozen. I have not touched them, and nothing can be done with them because their security, everything when you do a code, it's through an email. And it's not like TD as a secure token that is sitting right with you, so that nobody can ever get that number. That actual number is sitting right with you. And that's how we have our bank accounts. So I have been in contact with the insurance company. She is digging deeper to see if anything else can get recovered. However, she says that they usually don't recover anything until we hear back from KeyBank. So I have been calling and emailing every week, and I still don't have an answer from KeyBank. I'm reluctant to pull the money out of KeyBank because if I do, then they're not going to give us our money back. I have started a bank account with TD. So any new checks will be deposited into TD. And I will start using TD because they are much more secure. And I'm hoping the minute we get our money back, I will pull all of that and all the funds will go into TD. I have been asking for the regional manager and I keep on getting the executive number. And I said, no, I want the regional manager. So I did Google today, and I have, there's an office for KeyBank that I am gonna contact that individual tomorrow morning. It's not a regional manager, it's the actual executive of KeyBank. So I'm gonna contact him, tell him everything that was, that happened, and inform him that it would be on their best interest to give us the funds back due to the fact of, one, they never informed us that all of these securities that come about that they have, that they don't just automatically make that on everybody's account as others do, like Northeast Bank or TD Bank. When they get new security policies or procedures in place, it automatically goes on our accounts to secure our accounts. Trevor said, well, that would be the back office. I don't know why you were never contacted. I haven't had great luck with KeyBank. I go in there to do a deposit. She's stuffing her face with pizza. She calls me over. I mean, it's just very unprofessional. Anytime that I've gone in, like I said, all three of them sat there and said, no, nothing was taken out. You are good to go. You don't need to fill out the paperwork. They sent me on my merry way. And I told them at that point, they were like, do you want to just put security on these accounts? I said, no, you're to close out these accounts. Open new ones with no ACH. I said, I don't understand, we've never ever done an ACH in this account over many, many years, why that wasn't blocked. And he said, I don't know why it wasn't given to you. So I just don't understand that as a bank. Like I said, I've never seen where they don't automatically offer and put these securities on your accounts. Or they didn't even contact us to offer them to us. So I am doing everything. Like I said, I will continue to push to get this money back. I'm going to call somebody up high up tomorrow and have a discussion with them. I have put in an FBI report because of course it was a scam. It was fraud. So I filled an FBI report out. I have not heard anything from them. I did a police report. So everything has been sent off to the insurance company. She says she's looking into our policy closely, making sure that she gets all the amounts correct before she gets back to me with that. So I will update you on whenever this happens. So we have not touched those bank accounts. So what I've been doing for your invoices is I've been using City of Lewiston's, we have a balance sheet account that holds what is owed to us from Watershed. So I've been paying that out of there. So the minute I spoke with TD Bank, because I was at a conference yesterday, and she's supposed to finish it off, because she was out of the office, she's supposed to finish off the account and open it up tomorrow. So once that gets going and I get the checks, I'm going to start paying the City of Lewiston back for that. But I will continue to fight as hard as I can to get this $29,000 back.
One of the things that, when Tracy brought this to my attention, is there are two alternatives I've offered, and then since then I thought of a third, is Maine has the Bureau of Banking, is filing a complaint with the Bureau of Banking on Key Bank. And likewise with the Better Business Bureau. One of my other hats allows me to be a board member of another bank that, as their chair, I have access to the federal regulators that are in our area. So that may be another alternative, if we don't start at least getting communication, is asking the federal regulator to reach out to Key Bank.
That works. Will get my attention.
So, I mean, at least, you know, there are alternatives, you know, and that's the unfortunate thing. I mean, this, to Tracy's point, this is a legacy account. This goes back to when Auburn Water District opened up before, you know, Norm peeled this off as the Watershed. And it goes back that far that this account's been open, so. And it was open in Auburn, but because, you know, Lewiston's been the treasurer, that's where, you know, the branch that typically gets used, so. So there are other alternatives to at least make them feel some pain too.
What's an ACH?
Transfer automatically out of the account.
Correct. Which you guys have never, ever done
No.
since it's been open, so I don't even understand why it wasn't an automatic red flag.
Yeah, especially 5 of them.
Right.
Bottom line is happening in the banking industry. They don't have enough people to follow. Happened in my account, very similar. Someone took an old check that I paid somebody, and they changed the dates. They changed the date, changed the dollar amount. It was so bad, you could see white out on it, and they put an extra $30,000 on it. And then now it's, you take a picture of the check and it automatically goes to your account. It's not even, they didn't even bring it to the bank, they took a picture of it.
That's what I remember, deposit capture, yeah.
I finally got my money back, but it's fighting to get what's yours.
Yeah.
And it's the aggravation that goes through. So, and I talked to the bank, and they said, basically, we have nobody that's sitting there looking at these checks coming through. They have no
I always
clue.
wondered that.
They have no clue that somebody's, you've never done ACH until you get a complaint. Then they're looking, they go, oh, wow, yeah, you've never done it. So there's no,
We've had checks processed with no signatures on it, and they still process it. So,
Really?
Yes,
yeah.
With TD, we will be having positive pay.
yes.
Even though we only do 5 checks, I know it'll cost a little bit more, but it's gonna secure us. That I send them a list every month, every time I do a check run, of the amount, the check number, and who it goes to. And if those come through that they try to change them, it would be rejected automatically and it'd be secure. I know it's probably not worth paying that a little additional, but it's gonna secure that nothing will be changed. And they did, somebody who was like a very big, I don't know if you remember this at the GFOA, they had the gentleman who was went to jail for it for many
Frank
years.
Abagnale.
Talk at our GFOA, and they said they take nail polish
Yep.
remover and remove the amounts and change the amounts. And he told us all how they did this, how he did it.
and nobody checks it. That's the scare. Unless you open one of those accounts, and then if for 5 checks, it's not bad. But if you're writing 10, 15 checks a day, you've got to keep a list of all of this, you've got to transfer it. It becomes a royal pain in the,
My mom had her purse stolen at Auburn Shaw's about a month ago. Part of what was in her purse was her checkbook. They now are selling individual checks to people for them to forge and go cash. And we had blocked the account right out of it. So now she's getting the credit
people coming back to her.
calling her and saying, she's like, nowhere is that remotely close. You didn't, you know, the driver's license, nothing. And it's different people because they're actually ripping a check out here. Will you pay $20 for, and they're going to that Republic Cash. And ironically, Shaw's has cashed 3 of them.
Wow.
She's like, you don't remember when I was here. But it's a lot of strange things happening now.
Welcome to 2023.
Yep.
And it's gonna get worse.
Yep.
Well, thank you for your diligence.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
very
thank you,
appreciative,
That sounds like a
Tracy,
nightmare.
of all your time and effort
Yeah,
on our behalf.
thank you.
Our treasurer was supposed to be a simple job.
Nothing
About that.
And since we have Tracy here, we're going to look at the draft purchasing policy with her, if you have a copy of that. She,
So I didn't know if you guys wanted to go like that high or go that low, I should say, for your formal competitive bid. And your bid deposit amounts. I mean, this is what the city uses, but I didn't know if you guys wanted to change that. The other wording in there that we did put in there was all like the federal regulations, to make sure those are in there in case you ever get grants, because those have to be in your policy, or else that you can get in trouble when they do the audit. I'm kind of surprised that the auditors didn't mention the purchasing policy not being done when they did the audit, due to the compliance that was needed last year. So I just highlighted those items to see if you wanted to keep those amounts or if you wanted to adjust those amounts.
Tracy, at the very beginning, it's, in accordance with the Lake Auburn Watershed Protection meeting rules, not bylaws.
Okay.
And then, I think that what you're talking about is 3.43 and 3.44. The dollar amounts.
Well, you got 3.1.
3.1.
First one, which is the formal bid. So the city was 25.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, we used them for Lewiston, and we've since adopted them for the 911 committee as well, because I'm the treasurer of that. So those thresholds tend to be the new norm with what construction costs are. So I'm in support of this, because we now have 3 entities now that have adopted this, and, particularly with what everything is costing now. So I'd make a motion to accept it as presented.
With the change of the bylaws.
Yeah, with that.
Yeah.
Amendment, yeah.
There was another comment on 3.44 that Eric and I were talking about with the 3 competitive prices, to have the alternative of, if there was a sole source of some consultant that for some reason is working with us and they're doing a phase 2, that for approval of the board, we could go with a sole source.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking about too when I was.
Well, it has that, or
reading.
adequate explanation justifying the absence of such
And
competition.
what is that, 3.43?
Where is that part, Heather?
See?
The
3.44.
Oops.
Okay, from at least 3
Oh, okay,
competitive
gotcha.
sources
Yeah.
or adequate
Yeah.
explanation
Yeah.
justifying the absence of such competition. That's your sole source.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I've been down this rabbit
Yeah.
hole before. Yeah.
That's Rick. Second
That's
motion
good.
from Rick.
This is as short as we can get it. And
Discussion, further discussion? I am not as familiar with all of the purchasing policies, so I am trusting people that are very familiar with these.
Do the people
Anyone
running the
else?
bid stuff see any stuff in the books? Would be my only question. I think, I'm not sure how big projects are that we're bidding out, but I mean,
Yeah, for the last few, we haven't done bids. I guess it was more of reports and memos and less on the actual construction side.
Many times these things tend
I
to,
think for construction, it's good.
the only time they hinder you is in an emergency type situation where unforeseen things happens and you have to step up and mobilize equipment if, some big washout were to occur.
Well, there is an emergency section,
So-
3.2.
Perfect.
that puts
Yeah.
that in place.
I was just saying, that's normally how some of these things could
Yeah,
be hindered, but if you've thought of that, that's great.
This is more of a house cleaning, just like our bylaws.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just dotting the i's and crossing the t's.
Meeting rules.
Meeting rules.
3.1.3, 3.1. Bid deposits, bid bonds will be required. Are they bid deposits or bid bonds? The language just confused me.
There's performance bonds and bid deposits.
Right, but under 3.13 it says bid deposits, bid bonds will be required on all construction
Yeah, it
projects.
should be deposits.
Okay.
We'll make that a.
Clerical.
Just catch.
He stumbled on it.
I tried to read it.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of accepting with the proposed minor amendments, raise your hand. Any opposition? Okay, thank you, Tracy. All right, next on the agenda is the legal representation. The letter from Jim Cross that we all received a copy of. Mike?
Yeah, so I got a call from Jim, actually he came in to see me here back 2-3 months ago and told me that this was gonna be occurring. Jim's wife had bought into a practice a while back, and the partner in that practice was either moving on or they were growing at a rate that they needed more help, and it'd always been a dream that they would be able to work together on something like this. So he's going to be, moving at the end of this month from Skelton, Tainter and Abbott to that new firm. So basically, they sent a letter. Are we okay with transferring the files that they currently have to Grady Burns? And he did. When he came around, he brought Grady with him. I have met with him. I've talked with him. I've worked with him on some other water district stuff a little bit. I'm not super familiar with him. So far, he's been pretty good. He, I guess at one point, he was an Auburn city councilor. I think, Andy, you knew him a little bit. I don't think this signing this doesn't lock you down with Skelton, Tainter and Abbott or Grady Burns. It's just if something pops up until you make a change. If you make a change, he would be the one that you talk to rather than Jim moving forward. So. Yeah, it gives you two options on there, either to provide a new attorney's name of who you want these files transferred to, or sign off saying that you're okay with them and transferring them internally to the new representative.
Isn't he also a representative for Auburn Water District?
That's correct.
So you guys don't have one either. I don't think it's bad to go with a partner.
Well,
Sorry to interrupt, was the Amy Dietrich, was she the one that presented to us in
No.
absence?
No.
Oh, that was somebody else.
Someone else.
Oh, okay.
Amanda Meter.
Oh, okay, good.
Similar.
I just wanted to make sure it wasn't her.
definitely no one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, Rick?
So I would like to have a conversation with, or I think we should have a conversation with Skelton, Tainter and Abbott first. They're the company that we worked through. That was the attorney that we worked for. That's the company. I feel like I'm stabbing the company in the back, and I'm just following that person. What's Skelton, Tainter and Abbott? Do they have somebody that is just as proficient as he is to handle the case? If they don't have anybody that is proficient in this arena, then we should follow the gentleman. But he,
We can't.
We can't follow
He's
Jim.
not
He's
that.
doing elder
He's
law.
gonna be doing elder
Elder
law
law.
only.
oh, he's gonna be,
Yeah.
I thought he
We're all
was trying to
old.
get us to
I
follow
was gonna
his.
say,
He gets
I don't
checked out.
follow.
Oh,
No.
okay.
I'll probably keep anchor.
So it doesn't
What?
really
You might
matter.
still be able to work with some of us.
That's
Sure.
I could, looking around the room, there's 3 or 4 of us that fit into that category.
Yeah.
I'm in denial. No, I like Jim. Again, I thought he did great explanations. He was always very thorough. He'll be missed.
I guess the question would be, following up on that, Rick, would you like us to have Grady Burns, who works for Skelton Tainter now, would come in and have a conversation with us about,
I'm not, if I know the law in my field, I'm very familiar with it, I have no clue in this field.
Right.
So I guess I would bow to Mike and Jessica and whoever he is. Erica, I'm sorry. See, I don't want to bow to Jessica either, so just say Erica. And the people that work with the attorneys, if they feel comfortable with it, I feel comfortable with it, because you're more familiar with it, so.
I mean, we just had this discussion at our last Auburn Water District trustee meeting. We were in the same boat. He has a lot of experience with municipalities and doing this type of work, this new attorney, Grady Burns. He came from a firm where that's what he was doing for the last 7 years. So he's got that experience. Our unfamiliarity with him. We did go ahead and sign to have these files transferred over, but we're not, if we want to make a change, we're not bound by that. We could change tomorrow. I do think, I'll throw this out there, and I'll throw this to the Water District Board as well. From what we've learned from this recent, we had the lawsuit, we did have to get the Amanda meter because Jim was conflicted out because he represented both the district and the commission. In my opinion, maybe we learn from this and say, well, should one have a different firm? Should the district get a different attorney, or should the commission get a different one? Which one that should be, I don't know, but from my perspective, will it set up future conflicts? That wound up costing both of us money because we had to bring some other attorney in to get familiarized with all ourselves and our charters and our rules because we conflicted out because we're using the same one. So I only throw that out there. I still think you sign on to this, you continue, but you work towards that as a long-term goal to maybe next year start looking around to see what else is out there that wouldn't be in conflict with the organizations that usually sit at this table, being the Water District, the Commission, City of Lewiston, City of Auburn, somebody who can work in amongst all of them. Just mine, 2 cents.
That's good advice.
I mean, until recently, obviously, the bulk of the use was for land
Right.
acquisition. Right. And, an occasional zoning or
How
something.
many years has that been? 20,
I've been doing this since it started, so,
okay, 20
Yeah.
some odd years ago,
yeah,
more than that.
yeah.
Elder law thing's coming up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm keeping his number.
I mean, the only other thing is at that point, because if you look at having this different than Auburn Water District versus both cities, you're running out of firms in this community.
That's why we
And
ended up
that's why we
Amanda,
found up,
right?
Yeah,
Not that problem, right.
and, you're, at that point, you're looking at a Portland firm or like Key-Buddy or something, and that's not conducive to what we normally use the attorney for. So, I mean, I think it makes sense to keep it as a routine local, and then, if there's an exception, consider it at that point in time.
And hopefully this ad hoc committee and the stuff that we're trying to do now will eliminate any problems in the future of any other such tomfoolery. I just like using tomfoolery.
Tomfoolery.
Just-
The good
that elbow.
That was his word of the day.
I guess my 2 cents would be, if there's any potential conflict of interest, isn't that something we need to kind of seriously look at?
But there hasn't been conflict of interest in 30
Can
years.
there potentially impact future legal,
right, I mean,
if something's determined to be a conflict of interest, it could impact, in court of law, couldn't that impact?
what would happen? They'd be conflicted out, you'd have to find another.
Yeah, you have to sign on, you have
So
to sign
you
on.
just have to at that
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
find
There's
somebody
no
else that would
ifs, ands.
allow that person to.
They force
be
that
allowed.
signature, that
That's why Jim had.
they have to disclose it, enforce it.
Sign it.
So, what I would suggest is we make a motion to, I guess we have to sign a form.
Mhm.
Would
Yeah.
that be you doing that, Mike, myself, who needs to sign? Erica?
That was addressed to me, I guess I could.
Okay, so have Mike sign a form, have the files moved to,
Make a motion to authorize Mike to sign the form.
to have
Transfer
the files
files
moved
to-
to Grady
Yeah.
Burns
Bingo,
at Skelton Taylor.
yes.
So, anyone want to,
I made the motion, she seconded it.
oh, did that already happened?
Yep.
Well, thank you. I can't hear you, gotta,
Okay.
yeah, very quick.
Damn elbow law.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor?
Bring that table.
Unanimously approved. Thank you, Mike. Next is the update on the ad hoc committee between Allward and Water District, City of Lewiston, WAPEC. And Mike and I know Alan and Rick are on that. So,
I can give we did meet, maybe 2 weeks ago this week. We're meeting again next week. I'll say the meetings have been going very well. They've been productive. We've looked at all the current actions the city of Auburn is taking for watershed protections. We've been talking about septic ordinances. We've been talking about setbacks. I felt like the last meeting we really agreed on a lot of them. There's a couple of language things we need to clear up. The commission recommended to the water district the 400-foot setback. The city of Auburn was taking action on a 300-foot setback, and we were trying to figure out where did the 400 feet come from compared to the 300 foot. So there's a couple of things that we've paused on, but there's many that we've agreed upon that seems like are beneficial to all parties. So it's been a really good working group. We've been getting a lot done in an hour. We're meeting again next week. I know I'm working with Eric to pull together some information that we requested at the last one. So it's been going good.
Next week or the week after?
26.
I'm sorry, the 26th.
26.
Yeah.
Sick man, I was gonna ask too.
Yeah, the 26th.
At 3
Yeah.
o'clock.
Yep.
Are you meeting here?
Yeah, can we, is it available? I was gonna reach out.
I will check. So 9/26 at 3?
Yep.
I would just echo Mike's assessment of it. I thought it was a really good meeting, very productive, a little rocky at times, but everything, we're able to sit around and communicate and move things forward. And that's ultimately what we're supposed to be doing.
right.
And I think we're gonna have a good recommendation once it comes out that is satisfactory to all bodies. And not only that, I'm actually excited about not just the paperwork there's talk afterwards on future stuff that are coming down the road, and how do we better work together and move things forward.
Excellent.
I would agree with Rick's comments.
All right, thanks for that update. Alan, Town of Turner, any updates?
Yeah, a lot of stuff, but I do know, so certainly folks probably already know that as far as the town of Turner goes, the two areas of interest are typically, Mud Pond and Little Wilson Pond. Certainly there have been readings done, two different portions of Little Wilson, behind it on Gershik Road and then towards the other end of the pond. And according to Erica, correct me if I'm wrong, that there's no major concerns as of right now.
Nope, you're correct. I should have mentioned this to you, Alan, but it's in the tributary phosphorus data that's included in this packet.
Yep.
We call them Site 18 and Site 17, that's
Yes.
the inlet and outlet of Little Wilson.
Okay.
Yep.
Proper terminology, yes. Yeah, and certainly I had raised concern about, there's a retention pond that had been built in behind Little Wilson Pond that actually a homeowner on Gershik Road had actually brought to my attention, and actually I had hiked in there late spring to actually go up to the detention pond, which I hadn't seen before, and looked like it really wasn't functioning properly. The color of the water in the pond was pretty nasty. There was a big culvert that there's no water coming through it, but within 5 feet to the left of it, there was water that was pouring down the side of the hill that was going right into Little Wilson Pond. So certainly I know that Erica, I've been in touch with Erica a couple times. I know that she's been trying to reach out to the code enforcement officer at Town of Turner, just to try to discuss. I know she had some difficulty. I do see an email today
Yes.
from Kurt Schaub, who's the
Yes.
town manager for Town of Turner.
Yes,
So,
I got some good information back
Yeah.
from both of them.
Yep.
Just an update on that,
yeah,
so.
go for it.
Yeah, where that detention pond is, there's the Wilson Bluff subdivision, and it's basically on top of this hill, and it has a steep drainage down to Little Wilson Pond, and what Alan was talking about, there's this detention pond that serves, I think there's 7 houses maybe up there, and it has a culvert, and if it was working properly, the water from that pond would be coming out of there and then kind of infiltrating as much as possible down towards Little Wilson Pond, although it's pretty steep, and it seems to be blowing out and not functioning properly, and then you saw that, especially with some of those like major rain events. So long story short, I talked to code enforcement, talked to Fortin Construction, they did that subdivision, and there's a homeowners association that was formed, and they are supposed to take on responsibility for managing that, managing that stormwater. So thankfully I've got one phone number for a homeowner that Fortin knows still lives there, so I'm gonna reach out to her and see if they have a homeowners association or who the president is. They should be the ones to take on that project, but also Kurt Shaw, the town manager for Turner, said the town may take it on and then assess the homeowners association for it.
If repairs are needed, the town may perform the work and assess the individual lot
Exactly.
owners.
So,
We've done that in the past.
one thing, there's a lot that remains undeveloped that Fortin Construction is going to start building a home on within the next month. So they are going to be out there with equipment, so that's also an option if they want to take a look at it and fix it, but still it would be the homeowners association that's responsible. So I wanted to set up, if they're gonna be out there with equipment, set up at a time that I could go out there, maybe Alan, you
I'd
could.
love to join you.
Yeah, join me too, because I walked down,
Absolutely.
but it was after when you had been out there.
Well, I went there,
so-
it was probably March, I went out there before all these major national rain events occurred.
Yeah.
And there's significant water at that time running right down into Little Wilson, so certainly with all these rain events, I would be concerned there's a lot more water
I think,
that's going down the hill, right? I mean, but the slope of it, I mean, it goes directly, it's a steady stream going right directly into Little Wilson.
yeah, and I walked it August, July, I don't remember, but that's exactly what you said. There's an old logging road there that washed out, and then it just goes it goes directly down to the pond. There's nothing else. And the commission actually holds a conservation easement in that area. So if there's anything going on and impacting it, that obviously impacts us as well. And one other thing about that, back to when that development was first put into place, there's an agreement between homeowners association and the commission that we would do biannual inspections, which I didn't know that before now, so we'll be starting those up again too, and going out and checking everything and
Are we paying
documenting it.
somebody for that conservation easement to be walked every year?
Yes, that is part of Androscoggin Land Trust,
And
and
they haven't noticed any of this?
but this is just outside of it,
Oh.
so yeah, I mean it's a similar area. I do know, I didn't go with them last year, but I think I went the year before, but this level of erosion was not there. Yeah.
Is it such that it needs like some riprap, like on Spring Road and stuff?
I would want either to get someone else's opinion on that, because there's riprap at the outlet of the culvert, and then where it's washing down, I don't know if that's the right
They put a bunch of
answer.
rocks, they put a whole bunch of rocks. The water's going right between the rocks.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just shooting right through those rocks.
I think they need to
into a
fix
steady
the
stream that's going right
structure.
down.
Retention pond's not big enough.
Or it's not big enough, or it also is supposed to be dredged.
Detention, yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
I've got 2 of them, you're supposed to dredge them
sounds
if
like
they
it's
find it's
filled up.
faulty, because of the sand that's come in.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a fight for every municipality out there, folks, and this is,
We all required them, now we gotta fix them.
well, the argument, because I have 2 of them in the development that I have, that I'm supposed to have it inspected every year, and if it's faulted, we gotta fix them. Well, my complaint now is, I didn't put the sand on the road. It's the city sand on the road that went through our culverts that has destroyed our detention pond. So
Luck with that.
it's not going, this is gonna be an argument, well, because this is gonna be hundreds of thousands of dollars for a lot of people. Just figure, every development now has to have a detention pond, every development. So you're gonna have detention ponds everywhere, and this is gonna be the big argument. So when we turned over the road, now the road is the city's, the culvert's the city's, but you're saying I have to maintain it. But, so your culvert, your road, your culvert has dumped dirty stuff into my detention pond. and now I'm supposed to fix it? No, that's your fault. You accepted, neither here nor there, this is going to be a fight.
Oh, yeah.
It's gonna be a big fight. So,
Stop taking the streets.
Yeah, stop taking the streets.
so yes, it's gonna be a big fight all the way down. So I see, and now people move, there's the original homeowners, I'm out of here.
Yeah,
So technically, the original homeowners are, this is gonna be a legal mess.
this will be probably a case study for that. because
Well, case study, but what the city's gonna do, and it's, we're gonna come in, we're just gonna fix it, everybody has their, you get a bill.
Yeah,
And,
We've already did that. We have a track record of doing that once in Lewiston.
but it's just gonna take somebody with a deep enough pocket that says, okay, we're gonna fight it. But there's legal grounds on both sides. So yes, something should be done. It sounds to me like the detention pond is not working.
yeah, so this was first built in 2006,
So
so
when's-
it's due. They say
when's-
15 to 20 years for
When's the
dredging.
reports? They're supposed to have a report every other year, or every year on that detention pond.
We're supposed to do a site visit.
Every 2 years.
No,
That's what I'm
but-
wondering, is that gonna be the issue?
So like in City
oh,
of
you were supposed
Lewiston,
to
they're
inspect it
required
twice a
to
year,
have
you haven't been
a
here.
report on the detention pond
Correct.
every year.
But then
But the town attorney may not have that requirement, I don't know.
I know I pay for a report every year that goes to the City of Lewiston. For 2 of them. So that's, I would check with Turner, are they,
Yeah.
do they have have they ever received a report from
I
that?
will ask.
And this is something that needs to be moved forward, because if you wait, this is something that needs, that could be done in the middle of winter. So there's not,
Right.
this needs to be done, addressed before spring.
Yeah.
Spring is gonna be hell. So if we have any kind of authority, and if we gotta let Auburn Water District know, that has to be addressed.
Yeah, and we are, like I said, we were named in, so they have a site agreement between homeowners association and the commission for inspections, but it spells out who's responsible for what. So I have that. And then I can talk to code too, because if they're willing to come in and step in and have the town attorney do some of that work, okay, but yeah, we'll have to figure it out.
Yeah, it's
Just
all
keep me in the
legal
loop.
stuff.
Just keep me in the loop.
Sure,
Yeah,
yep.
all right, thank you, Alan and Erica. Erica, did you have more to say about the Blanchard Pond project?
No, those were all
Okay.
covered, thank you.
Okay. So, we're at the point in the meeting where we need to enter executive session. And that means, thank you to the public who came today. We are going to have to ask you to leave.
Someone want to move in a second?
What?
I'm good, tomorrow's
All right.
Yeah, the executive session.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
It wasn't anything you said, Randy.
So we need a motion to enter executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Second? All in favor? Okay. We've exited executive session at 5:06 PM. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
So moved, seconded, all in favor?
Hoorah.
All right. Thank